okay, writing for the green light is not, I wrote this great script in 3 days and I'm emotionally invested in it and I want to see it on the big screen. Writing for the green light is about writers who want to write professionally, who want to figure out that great question that no other book really answers, and it's really just, how do you begin that process? How do you talk to people? How do you pitch your work? And so that's why we kind of focus on the goldmine genres that are like the tried and tested, they're going to be around forever type things. So the process of writing a script or getting a job as a writer is not, I wrote the script and I'm going to sell it. Writing begins with being able to showcase you can write. Writing, it requires that when a production company is in a crunch and they need a writer who can just get the job done the first time around, you're the person to hire. So writing for the green light is about helping writers become that, if that's what they want to become. So the success stories I saw were people changed their style of writing. They gave it a shot. And one woman wrote out to me that she read the book, she wrote a woman in peril thriller, she sent it off and was basically given a writer for hire agreement, a step agreement, which was basically, we really liked your work. You obviously know the kind of genre that we like to work with. We need this script written. Can you write it? Give us a treatment. I had another woman reach out to me basically saying, I read this book, I thought it was interesting, so I gave it a shot. She wrote a Christmas dog family movie, and basically she did it as kind of a, I wouldn't say a joke, but like, I'm just gonna spit this out and see what happens, So she wrote it in 2 weeks, and all of a sudden, this script got a lot of attention. She got an agent, it won festivals, and it got optioned. I don't think it's been produced, but I mean, like, that's the kind of thing where it's just, writing for the green light is about those writers who find, like, there's so, okay, everyone in Hollywood, it feels like, is a screenwriter. Everyone has a script, or they dabble with it, etc. And the truth is, most of them are really, really, really good writers. They just write the wrong stuff. And because they write the wrong stuff, they blend in with all of those piles of scripts in production houses that no one takes seriously. So it's about writing stuff that's going to elevate you, make you stand out, and have your work be taken seriously, to have it get noticed. That's sort of the idea of it. So I've had a couple of other people who've had successes. One guy was asked to write a treatment, flesh out a full treatment of a story, and he got a first draft out of it. It's beginning that process. So it's only been 2 years or so, and it's getting real results, which I love. It's meaningful to see that there are people out there who are fulfilling their goals, and in a way they've just never had it spelled out. This is how you do it. This is the instruction manual for your game plan.
Yeah, I had a lot of positive comments on Amazon, and the video interview that we did with you back, I think it was more 2014 for us, but wasn't it 2014?
It was March 2015.
2015, okay, sorry. I don't know.
I only remember that because it was around, I knew where I was when I was leaving Mar Vista, shifting to DRG. So.
Okay, all right, well, one comment that came in on the video interview that we did, which I felt was a constructive question, was one lady put regarding goldmine genre, that I don't understand something. If one should focus on goldmine genres, then how do deeper, more meaningful indie movies get picked up at film festivals? The Wrestler was Robert Siegel's first screenplay, but The Wrestler isn't a goldmine genre movie. It's a, quote, boring drama, as you would playfully describe it. Thank you to anyone with an opinion on this matter. So I felt it was a, just constructive question.
It's a totally valid question.
Yeah.
Obviously there are great dramatic films. I say don't write dramas, I say don't write comedies, I say don't write a lot of these things. Not because they aren't successful films. It's most independent production companies or distribution companies. Those require a lot more work. They're a lot more difficult and complex to package together. Okay, I don't know the story of The Wrestler as far as in how it came from, embryonic idea to how it got to Darren Aronofsky. But he's not a nobody in town.
Sure.
And if he was connected to the writer in some way, or how it got from point A to point B, I'm not visible to that. I know the other story that always gets brought up is Diablo Cody. So when she wrote Juno, same situation. It's a indie boring drama, as Scott describes. How is that possible? Well, she wasn't a first-time writer. She's a first-time screenwriter, but she had a very successful blog. She had, I believe, a book that she had written with a manager about her experiences, because her blog was all about being a stripper and some of the trials and tribulations of that. So she got a lot of attention for having a fan base as a blogger. Then wrote a book, and then, basically had this great idea for a movie. But she also had a network of a manager and agents and a fan base of people that she kind of had formulated who she was as a writer. And then had, people connected in Hollywood to be able to get that passed from point A to point B. So she's connected. She's not your newbie writer who has zero connections in Hollywood. For the people who have zero connections in Hollywood, that route isn't the easiest to get into. So writing for the Greenlight is about getting to that point. How do you get to the point of having a collection of professionals to speak to pitch your ideas to? That's what it's really about. And there's all kinds of great genres in the indie space, but a lot of them are also developed internally, where pre-sales are put together, or production company A has a relationship with some major talent, and that major talent brings in a story that's very interesting. Distribution company brought on board knows how to pre-sale it to 6 companies in different territories on the planet, and then they hire a writer, or they go out to agencies and they find a writer who is up and coming that they can assign it to. Like, that's kind of how that stuff works. So to get there, you kind of first have to pass the litmus test of being seen as a writer that can deliver, and getting yourself getting your feet wet in the business. That's a major leap, and you can get there. And I'm just saying, don't go out of the gate writing that stuff. Don't have those great films and those great scripts of yours be the ones you showcase to Hollywood, because people are just going to go, this is great, but we got 30 others just like them, and they're connected to other projects, or they're attached to something. This one isn't, so I'll put it to the side and we'll see what happens, and usually nothing does. And it doesn't mean that it's not a great script, it just means it's not attached to things. So to overcome that hurdle, the goldmine genres are, this is a great stepping stone to getting to that level where when a production company or an agent or whomever is looking for that person who can make something happen, magical on the page, you're the person they call, instead of the thousands of other scripts they have sitting on file someplace. That's the idea of it.
Well, I think, when I teach a class at UCLA or my private workshops, there's all these people that just want to be professional writers. They have no idea what it's like to be a professional writer. And I don't think you ever know until you do it. And so it's just, I want to be a professional writer, and I had a vision of what that would be. I think most people's vision is, I sit in a room, or in a room with other people, but let's say I sit in a room and I write what I want to write, and I write it in a way that I want to write it, and I write what I love, and everyone else will love it. It don't work that way. People have a process to how they write, and that process usually is what's comfortable, because it plays their strengths and it hides their weaknesses. And it's learning how to write in a way that other people love it as much as you love it. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of training. And then there's deadlines and there's politics. There's a lot that goes into having a writing career beyond just the writing. I mean, the reality was, like, you have 2 careers. You have the writing, you have to create the content, but then there's the career management and the meetings and the marketing, and always be looking for your other job. There's a lot that goes into it. But at the same time, to get paid and to be able to make a living playing with characters and playing with stories and doing something that, especially if it's creatively fulfilling and you get paid for it, for people who do it right and train themselves the right way, they literally do something that they would do for free. And they get paid, and perhaps they get paid millions of dollars. Perhaps they get paid tens of millions of dollars. Perhaps they get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. Perhaps they get paid $100,000 to do what you would do for free. That actually is possible, and I have a growing list of clients and students who have that lifestyle. So I think anyone who really is drawn to this should absolutely pursue it, and just pursue it in the right ways.
Can we talk about, though, the beginning stages of their career where a lot of it's going to rest on discipline and being your own taskmaster? And I think it's easy when you think, okay, I have to, get back to this person's email on, do I have this finished and finished? But when in the beginning, there's going to be a lot of time alone. There's going to be a lot of time being your own taskmaster, and how difficult that is. Yeah,
so it is really difficult in the beginning, and a lot of writers have this fantasy or this illusion, and I did, and I was wrong, is that you're working and you're making money and you're trying to write and you're so busy and writing so hard and God, when you sell something and when you get hired, then you can quit your day job and you can quit this and you can just write, and oh, what a luxury that would be because you're so time starved. But when you first when I first broke in the business, I had 2 months to write the script for Metropolis. But almost every day I had meetings, and I had to go on meetings, and I was talking about other projects and pitching, and I actually was spending more time on that than I was on my day job. So I actually had less time to write. And you were just pulled in so many directions, and so discipline really matters. So one of the things that I teach writers from the very beginning, writers who are starting out, and then and a lot of them won't do this, but the ones that do, not only do they become better writers, this will save their rear ends when they have a career, is I teach them the idea of a writer's schedule. So what that means is if you have a job that pays the bills, and Thursday at 3 o'clock, you have to do a marketing proposal to your boss. I know where you're going to be Thursday at 3 o'clock. You're going to be doing that proposal. Now, if you don't feel like it, and you don't feel like the proposal's that good, you're still going to do the best you can. And if you feel like watching TV or napping, you're going to be there, or you're not going to have a job. And from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., you are supposed to meet with this client. You're going to do that. And you schedule your life around that. So what I tell people is no one is going to treat you like a professional until you are a professional. No one's going to invest money in you until you put the money where your mouth is. So you have a career, perhaps you have a family, perhaps you have all of these pulls on your time. I get that. Every Sunday night, you're going to create a writer's schedule for the next week. And maybe you can only write 45 minutes a day, ideally an hour or 2 hours. Let's say 90 minutes a day. You will block out that writing time, be it at 7:30 in the morning, be it at 6 o'clock, whatever it is, for every day for that week. Now, if you've blocked out Thursday from 7:30 to 8:30 is your writing time, I know where you're going to be at 7:30. You're going to be writing. And it's not, if you feel like it, because that's like your marketing meeting with your boss. So you schedule out your writing time every single week, and then you honor that. And if you're not willing to do that, and you're not willing to honor that, why should anyone else invest money in you?
There's an idea. And usually what I know is Beetlejuice, for instance, the idea was that I discussed with my partners a psychedelic ghost comedy. We had no idea what that meant, but it rolled off the tongue, right? And I usually have something of an idea like that, and I kind of know the beginning, and I kind of know the end. The middle is the great unknown. But it's an instinct and an idea, and sometimes it's a character, and sometimes it's a situation. But it's very internal at first. And yes, there's times where you write on assignment, and you're given an idea and say, translate this into a movie. But in terms of my own writing, if you will, my personal writing, it usually comes from just the most basic kind of idea and a feeling, and it's like. And I can't articulate it very well. I'm sorry, because it's hard to articulate. But it's just kind of like like a situation or a character that's just kind of waiting to come out. And then whatever your process is, and boy, do you need a process, and boy, do you need to go to work, and boy, do you need to sit down and do it. and do the job of writing, and you allow that character or that situation to just start growing and start coming, you know, leaving your fingers onto the digital page these days, you know, onto your computer, and then it grows and expands and it takes on life, and you know, there's, of course, and this is every writer's choice. There's a lot of talk about backstory, always, you know, like tell it, you know, where did your character go to school? How, you know, what was his or her mommy like, and all of that. I've never written a backstory in my life, never. But if you ask me to tell me the backstory of one of my characters, I could. I'd kind of be making it up as I went along, but the feelings would be true, because I feel I feel the characters, and I feel like they need to come out, and I feel like they need to be given a voice, and that's just that's what writing is to me. An idea or a character or a situation or an emotion or a feeling that you somehow have to put into the world. And it's hard to articulate, and I feel like I'm talking in circles, but it's almost hard not to, because it's so ephemeral in the beginning. You know, I hope that makes some version of sense.
It does, and so the middle, it sounds like, is undetermined, but you know an ending when you start something.
I kind of know an ending. I kind of know an ending, but that can all change. But people get very scared of the middle, but for me, that's when it gets fun, because it's so challenging, and you so get to what, you know, in a screenplay, if you think of a screenplay as 110, 120 pages, you get to page 60 and you go, oh my God, I'm only halfway there. What happens next? But something will happen. And that's exhilarating, and it's exhilarating to go to bed completely sure that you will never figure out what's going to happen next, and wake up with the answer. And that and it's, you know, it's a daily challenge, but it feels so good to realize that next scene will be there if you keep working at it. It's the best feeling in the world, other than finishing. And then finishing, it's like the first draft, no matter what shape it's in, is like brilliant. I mean, that's just, I always get tears in my eyes when I finish a first draft, because I feel like I'm saying goodbye to a group of people that I've been on this journey with. And there's a very emotional side to it. And then, you know, then you become the craftsman, and time for a second draft and all of that. But it's an emotional journey, and to do that day after day, it's incredibly rewarding. I've got the best job in the world.
So let's say you're 60 pages in.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of like, what do I do next?
Yeah.
So keeping in the vein of not waiting for inspiration.
Yeah.
And you're treating this as a job. It's like working at a bank.
Yeah.
So what's happening? Let's suppose it's 9 a.m. Monday morning, you're 60 pages in, you've got the cup of coffee, and you're there, and... I will go back, I will never go back to the beginning, because that is a death trap. I know what I'll do. I'll go back and rewrite the first 60 pages, and then I'll go back and rewrite the first 60 pages again and again. I'll go back and read a couple of pages and maybe do some cosmetic stuff just to get, you know, just to put myself back into the zone of the story. And then I just start writing, and they may not be good ideas. There may be, my drafts are always 20, 30 pages too long. When I finish the first draft, because I'm telling the story to myself. But I forget who it was. I'm going to say Oscar Wilde. I'm going to say some famous writer said, just sit down
and start typing your name over and over. Maybe Oscar Wilde may have been pre-typewriter, I bet, but you understand the point. Start typing your name. Start doing anything with your fingers, and again, it's like where that comes from and where that next scene comes from. It's there. It is there, and if you put yourself in a position to find it, you will find it. And I might spend a day writing 10 basically bad pages, but there'll be one page of truth in it, and one moment that will move the story forward. And Stephen King talks about this really brilliantly. And I have questions about outlining, and I'm not here to have an outline debate. He's scathing about outlining. If you've ever read his book on writing, great, probably the best book on writing ever written to my mind. But he always says it's what happens next. It's what happens next, what happens next, what happens next. And you know, if I were to reach across the room here and steal your notes from you, there would be a response.
Yes.
Or if I were to kick the camera over and say, I'm done with this interview, there would be a response, right? And then it's what happens next. Do you jump on me and say, give me my notes back, you jerk? Do you? I mean, and it's really that, it's kind of gets, and if you just look at it like that, and you look at it like whatever you made happen, something has to happen next, and it's what happens next, what happens next, what happens next, what happens next. That what happens next will come, and it may not come easily, and there may be a lot of, like I said, bad what happens next before you find the right what happens next, but it'll come, and it's a magical process. I mean, magical in the sense that it's almost unexplainable, and it's why there's so many screenwriting programs and apps and all of these things out there to kind of tell you that they can tell you what happens next, but they can't tell you what happens next. Only you can tell you what happens next. And I look at it as a moment by moment process. And I put these characters in a situation, and it's often diabolical and it's often otherworldly, and they've got to get themselves either deeper into it or get the hell out of it. And that's the journey, and it's moment by moment, and it's sort of literally second by second if you think about it.